Hello everyone. Today we will learn about ring structure. We will learn definition of ring, integral domain and field. First of all, we will start with the definition of ring. Uh, Let us consider Z. Z be a non-empty set. Question is whether we could call Z a ring. So it depends upon certain number of conditions that apply upon Z along with some binary composition. We could not call Z a ring. Z could be a ring together with two binary composition. One is ordinary addition and other one is multiplication. So this non-empty set Z in conjunction with addition and multiplication could be a ring if it satisfies certain specific conditions that are meant for ring. So question is, what are the conditions? So we will start with the definition of a ring. For that I am considering a non-empty set R. So let R be a non-empty set together with binary compositions, two binary compositions. One is addition, ordinary addition, and second one is multiplication. Not ordinary, depend upon whatever you have defined. So this set R must be closed under binary addition and binary composition addition and the multiplication. So what do you mean by closed here? So let us explain closed addition. By closed I mean if A and B belongs to R, then A plus B must belongs to R. In that case I will say that set R is closed under addition. Moreover, if AB belonging to R also implies that A multiply B belongs to R, then I will say that R is closed under. So this non-empty set R together with binary composition plus and multiply is said to be a ring if and only if it satisfies those specific conditions. Now what are those conditions? For R with plus and multiply to be a ring, the conditions are: number one, for every A, B, C belonging to R, first condition is commutative of addition, that is A plus B must be equals to B plus A. This is simple. Next, second condition is associative law of addition. Now associative law of addition says that if you add to A the sum of B plus C, then it must be equals to A plus B plus C. When you add C to sum of A plus B, then these both sides must be equal. So first one is the commutative law of addition, second one is associative law of addition, third one is existence of identity. Existence of identity for addition. This law is again for addition. The existence of identity says that there exists a unique Z, element of R, Z, such that A plus Z must be equals to Z plus A equals to A for every A belonging to I. So for every A there exists a Z, unique Z. That Z must be unique, an element of R, such that A plus Z equal to Z plus A. For example, if we take known some empty set R equals to set of integers, then in that case the value of Z equals to 0. That is 1 plus 0 equals to 1 equals to 0 plus 1. 1 is now the identity, 0 is the identity for Z. 2 plus 0 equals to 2 equals to 0 plus 2. Number 4. Existence of inverse. For every A belonging to R, there exists some element B belonging to R such that A plus B equals to identity equals to B plus A. Now this B is called inverse of A. Every element of R has a inverse. Again, if I use this example for R equal to set of integers, that means what will be the inverse of 2? Inverse of 2 is minus 2, because adding both equals to identity 0. Inverse of 3 is equal to minus 3. Adding both we get 0. This is also called additive inverse of element. So these are the 4 properties for addition. Next property is for multiplication. Property 5. Now this property says that multiplication is associative, or associative law of multiplication. So it says that A multiply with product of BC must be equals to A multiply B and right multiply it with C. These two sides must be equal. It is called associative law. Last condition, but not the least, distributive law, that is called distributive law, and involves both multiplication as well as addition. Distributive law of multiplication over addition. So this law says that A multiply B plus C is equals to A multiply B plus A multiply C, or B plus C multiply A equal to B multiply A plus C multiply A. So these are the 6 conditions. If they are together with binary composition, multiplication and addition satisfies these 6 properties, then we say that R is a ring. So the basic example of this ring is number 1. You can consider a set of integers with ordinary addition and multiplication, so it is a ring. Also set of rational numbers, real numbers, complex numbers, these all are ring with together with in binary composition, addition and multiplication. Let us consider an example of matrices. Define M to Z as a set of all 2 cross 2 matrices with integer entries. A, B, C, D elements of matrix are integer. So check that whether this set is a ring or not. Now in M to Z we will check whether the first law holds. The first law is commutative law. Now commutative law says that 2 matrices A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I, these 2 matrices belong to M to Z, where A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I all are integers. must be equals to EFGI plus ABCD, which is true. You can see that in matrices addition is entry wise: A plus E, B plus F, C plus G, D plus I is equals to E plus A, F plus B, C plus G plus C equals I plus 2. So in matrices first condition is satisfied. Also second condition is satisfied because matrix addition is associative. Number 3, existence of identity. Existence of identity in matrices for addition. In matrices additive identity is zero matrix, because whenever you add some matrix A with zero matrix, the answer will be matrix A. So there exists identity in M2Z. That identity is zero matrix. So there exists some identity. Number 4, existence of inverse. Now for every A of M2Z, there exists element minus A such that whenever you add these two matrices, the answer will be. So inverse also exists. So if you take M2Z as a set of matrices, 2 cross 2 matrices with entries from integer or complex number or real number, then it is commutative for addition, associative. There exists identity for addition, there exists inverse. So one thing to remember, that identity is the zero matrix for addition. Now condition number 5, associative law of multiplication. Now associative law of multiplication is also satisfied if you multiply matrices in the same order on both sides. Matrices product is not commutative. A into B need not to be equal to B into A. Also we can easily see that these addition and multiplication are distributive. That is, if you multiply matrix A with B plus C, then this value equals to A into B plus A into C for all ABC belonging to M2Z. So we can say that set of 2 cross 2 matrices with entries from integer or complex number or real number together with binary composition, addition and usual multiplication of matrices is a ring. So this completes our definition of ring. But there is 2 or more very helpful definitions of ring. First definition, suppose R be a ring. So as I have said that in case of matrices, the matrix product need not to be commutative. But if R be any ring with the condition that A into B equals to B into A for all AB belonging to R, then in that case we will call R a commutative ring. Not all rings are commutative, but if a ring satisfies the commutative law for multiplication, then it is called a commutative ring. Now second definition is little bit interesting. In above example, matrices, set of 2 cross 2 matrices together with addition and multiplication is a ring. Not a commutative ring, but it is a ring. Now if you take a matrices 1 2 1 1 that belongs to M2Z, and also second matrix 3 7 1 0 also belongs to M2Z, and multiply these two matrices, you can see that the product is equals to 5 7 4 7, not 0 matrix. Suppose if I multiply 1 2 1 1 with the 0 matrix, then answer will be 0. Is it possible that I choose two non-zero matrices, and whenever I multiply these two matrices, then answer is 0? Let us choose a matrix 1 minus 1 minus 1 1 and 2 1 2 1 and multiply both. You can see answer is a 0 matrix. Now this very interesting concept give rise to another definition. So, let R be a ring. Now if there is element A and B belonging to R such that if A multiply B equals to Z, where Z is we have defined as identity, additive identity, implies either A equal to Z or B equal to Z, then we will say that R has no proper zero divisors. I again repeat, instead of Z I will write 0 here. Let us take an example of integer. So I am saying that if A multiply B equal to 0, then either A equal to 0 or B equals to 0. Then I will say that R has no proper zero divisor. But in last example, we have taken two matrices 1 minus 1 belonging to M2Z. Now these both matrices are non-zero, but whenever I multiply these two matrices, answer is 0. So in that case, M2Z is a ring with proper zero divisor. That is, if I multiply two non-zero element, then result can be 0. So M2Z plus is a ring with proper zero divisor. Third definition, if an element U belong to R, U is an element of R, but U is not equal to identity, additive identity, U is not equal to Z, and A multiply U equals to U multiply A equals to A. Now you can see that it is not an additive identity, but it is in multiplicative identity. So if R be a ring, it may have multiplicative identity or may not have multiplicative identity. In the case it has multiplicative identity, we will call a ring with unity, and we will call U a unity, multiplicative identity. Now our fourth definition relates with ring with unity, which is let R be a ring with unity U if A belonging to R and for that A there exists B belonging to R such that A into B equals to B into A equals to unity. Now for this A, this B is called multiplicative inverse, or you can say that A. Let us assume that R be a commutative ring, number 1, with unity. So R be a ring with additional two properties. R is a commutative ring and R has a unity element U. Then R is called integral domain if R has no proper divisors of 0. Now our second definition is of field. Let R be a commutative ring with unity. Again, two conditions are compulsory. R be a commutative ring with unity. Then R is said to be field if every non-zero element of R is a unit. What does that mean? It means that if A belongs to R, then there exists some B belongs to R such that A into B equals to unity. Then B is called multiplicative inverse and A is called unit. So we can also say that every commutative ring with unity is called field if and only if every element has a multiplicative inverse. Our next theorem is, if F is a field, then it is an integral domain. That means if you defined F to be a field, then we will prove that this field is an integral domain. We can also say that every field is an integral domain. It is a very interesting theorem and has an easy proof. That is, you know that if F is a field, then every non-zero element is a unit. Every non-zero element is a unit and has a multiplicative inverse. And you want to prove that it is an integral domain. By definition of integral domain, you only have to prove that it has no proper zero divisors. No proper zero divisor. That means to prove this theorem, you only have to show that if A into B equal to Z, then either A equal to Z or B equal to Z. So let us start with the assumption that A be element of F and A into B equals to Z. Now if A equal to Z, then it is proved. So we have another assumption to let A is not equal to Z. Now if A is not equal to Z, A is non-zero element, so this implies A is a unit. It has a multiplicative inverse. That multiplicative inverse we say A inverse. A inverse be multiplicative inverse of A. So if A is a unit, A inverse is a multiplicative inverse of A, multiplying both sides of 1 with A inverse. You can see that A inverse A equals to unity and A inverse Z equals to Z. So this means B equal to Z. So if A is not equal to Z, that means B equal. So B equal to Z. That proves that F is an integral domain. Now our next theorem is, now in previous theorem you had seen that every field is an integral domain, but every integral domain need not to be a field. Our next theorem is that if integral domain is finite, then it is a field. So a finite integral domain is a field. Proof of the theorem is, since D is finite, so we may list the element of D as D1, D2, so on, Dn, finite elements for any D belonging to capital D. We may consider that let D is not equal to Z. D be a non-zero element of integral domain D. Consider another set small d multiplied with integral domain D. The element of this set are of type D, D1, D, D2, so on, D, Dn. Now since integral domain is a commutative ring with unity, so it is closed under multiplication. That means if D belongs to integral domain V and Di belongs to integral domain D, then by closure property of multiplication, D into Di also belongs to D. That means every element of D into capital D is an element of integral domain D. So we may conclude from here that D into capital D is a subset of D. So number of elements, what we can say, cardinality of D into D will be less than or equal to D. Cardinality of the number of elements in integral domain D is D. So this implies that D into capital D is less than or equal to n. But if cardinality of this set is less than n, that means that there exist two elements of set D into capital D such that D into Di equal to D into Dj, where we have assumed that D is not equal to Z. That means we have Di equal to Dj, but cardinality of D is n, therefore elements of D are distinct. So we can say that number of elements in D are also equal to n. So that means D into capital D equal to J. So there exists an element of this new set which is equal to unity U. We can write it as DDK. Now this element DDK equals to unity U. So that means dk is multiplicative inverse of D, or you can say that every non-zero element of D is a unit, which is a definition of field. Hence we have proved here that D is a field. Every finite integral domain is a field.